I'm live. I got to take that anger off.
I was about to say, Sister Lila, what happened?
You were here, yes. Were you weren't here yesterday?
No, I was.
I
was.
I still, this is.
Yeah. All right, brother Yusuf is here. You can make him a co-host.
Wait to see if it's oh, I have to everything is set. Let me know if it's set. I mean, I pushed the thread. This new, it automatically streams. Let's see if it's on Facebook. Oh, there it is on Facebook. Oh, that's a clear picture too. Oh, it looks nice. Let me share it to. This Muslim 2.0 is one of the best things that we got going here at this website, because it's keeping everybody up to date on how the religion of Islam is becoming distorted and torn up. This is the best topic. And it's getting a lot of views. Okay, it's on Facebook. Oh, that's a good view on Facebook. Okay, so Facebook is set up. Let me. Oh, there it is on you. Oh, there it did it again. You know why I did it again on YouTube? I found out why it does a double, because I put on there to make a thing. So I got 2 lives on YouTube. So let me take that one of them off. It's 2 lives on YouTube, and I know why, because I put on there for it to, yeah. Let me remove one. Or is it 2 lives? It's just 1 live, right?
Yeah, it's one live.
Okay, that's just me. Okay, well, yeah, I'm good. So I did it right. Okay, it's just 1. Okay, mashallah. I did it. Okay. Oh. Okay, yeah, there I am. There I am. I'm on Rumble. Oh, there. Oh, look at Rumble. I look nice on Rumble. Okay. And where's the other one? Twitch.
Votes? Yes, sir. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Deal.
And we got.
Hey, 3.
Okay, there we are.
3, 2, 1.
It's Twitch. X. Twitch. All right, we're good. No, I'm not gonna. For the people on Twitter, you can pass on to them. I'm not gonna stream on Twitter this series because Twitter has some very strict rules on politics, and they like to ban, but they can't ban me because I am with an agency. But I don't want to mess that up on Twitch. So for the people on Twitch, if y'all would like to participate, I know this is a very good topic. The real talk with Brother Yusuf. The people on Twitch will have to join our YouTube channel. So just tell the people on Twitch if they want to participate in this show, they have to join us on the YouTube because I'm not going to live stream this. I don't want to mess up on TikTok. Yeah, they got some strict rules about politics, and I don't want to rock my boat there. Yeah. Right. Just tell them to join us on YouTube for the live stream. They can participate on YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I'm streaming on Telegram. We're live streaming on almost 20 platforms now, most major platforms on social media. Spotify. I'm on Spotify too. In fact, let me check out Spotify right quick. I don't particularly care for Spotify. It's a waste of time for me personally. I don't know what y'all see about Spotify, but let me check them out right quick. Yeah, y'all, I don't understand. It's just about music, and I'm not a music place, but y'all know, y'all always have me doing stuff. It's just about music. But yeah, I'm on Spotify too. It's like SoundCloud. I'm on SoundCloud too, Yeah, Layla Nashiba's everywhere, What can I say? Yeah, there I am. What's the big deal? It's just audio. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm having problems with Instagram, and I don't understand but we'll figure it out. There's a problem with that platform. So there not that many people watch us on Instagram anyway. Just join YouTube. But there's a problem with Instagram. Instagram always has platform problems. They're trying to upgrade their servers anyway. Yeah. I'm aware. We're aware of it. Just get on YouTube. Yeah, that's the professional camera I'm using. You can tell the difference. I'm using my streaming camera. Professional. Paid money for it. Just get on YouTube. Okay, Brother Yusuf, whenever you're ready, you can start, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm pretty much ready.
Oh, okay. Okay, guys, here he is. He's ready. Everybody's ready. We got a lot of people logging in on all the
Okay.
platforms. They letting me know they all here. Reddit group is here too. We're on Reddit too. We're everywhere. Your show is pretty popular.
Inshallah.
Okay, y'all ready? Okay, you can turn your camera on. Well, I'm gonna turn this camera on. He can start. Okay, y'all ready? Here we go. There you go, brothers.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Tonight we have a pretty big night. Probably going to offend some people. As usual, I really don't care. We're here to talk truth. We're here to basically try to bring light in the apparent darkness that exists, particularly in American Western, society. We've been covering this topic with influencers, and it's not just restricted to there. It's restricted to politics as well. And that's where this came up this week. I didn't even know who this gentleman we're going to speak a lot about tonight. I didn't even know who he was. I had never heard of him before. He started popping up on my feed, and we'll get into that here in a minute. So there is a new Muslim superhero. He's got the cape, Superman, costume. He's flying in to save the day, isn't he? And we're really going to have some fun with this one tonight and really kind of just, like I said, bring light to the darkness and say some uncomfortable things, but they have to be said about certain communities in this country and where things are really going. So all over the news, couldn't ignore it if you lived in the West, to America. I don't know about Europe, but here it was everywhere. Was Mr. Abdul El Sayed. Never knew of him. Like I said, he's running in the Democratic primary. These things are going all across the country, and I'd be lying if I said that I was familiar with every state's race. In fact, I don't pay much attention to any of this nonsense because, as I've said before, politics is professional wrestling. It's basically, there's a thing in the wrestling business, they talk about cutting a promo, trying to put butts in the seats, where that's what politicians do. They cut promos on each other to put butts at the polls, to vote for them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the people that are getting nothing out of this. These guys are going to get positions for their entire lives where they're going to enrich themselves, dirty backdoor dealings, bribes, stock trading options, tips. You see their net worths multiply, 200,000, 250 or whatever they're getting paid these days. They vote for their own pay raises here in America as well. Imagine if any company could allow their employees to vote for a pay raise. I think we know what would happen there. And this is what happens with the United States Congress. But why are all these wealthy people just fighting to get in these positions? They only pay $250,000. Now, $250,000, don't get me wrong, is good money, but not when you're dealing with and rubbing elbows with the people that these guys are dealing with. It's because it's a way to get in there and to fleece us and bribes and dirty trading and everything. So this guy, he won the Michigan Democratic, keyword there, we're going to look a lot at that today, the Democratic primary, and he's headed to the statewide election where he'll take on the Republican candidate in November. Leftist Muslims are calling him the Muslim Obama, as if we need a sequel of that one. Muslims apparently didn't learn their lesson the first time. We'll talk a little bit about Obama here, just briefly, as much as I want to really go into him. It's like having a Trump sequel. I mean, do we really want to go down that road again? We've already seen those charlatans and their likes and ilks. And now here we have another one. Even when you listen to this guy, it's almost like he should be sued by Barack Obama for ripping the guy's style off. I mean, the way he speaks, the way he talks, his cadence. Obama was taught what they call in America the black preacher voice. He learned this in the early to mid 90s. When you look at Obama speak before that time, he didn't talk like that. He was groomed to talk like that to win over a certain demographic. Well, this guy is kind of taking a lot of Obama's style and is implemented into himself. So you have the leftists and the Muslims are calling him the Muslim Arab Obama. Then you've got the right wingers who, again, you talk about the two extremes and how insane this whole thing is. The right wingers are calling him a jihadist. He is a jihadist in disguise. He's using taqiyya to basically manipulate the Gentiles, the non-Muslims, the kuffar, whatever you want to call them, and to guide them to a Sharia-controlled state. Now, that is just even saying it, I can't even say that without a smile on my face because it's just so utterly ridiculous. You've got, again, two extreme polar opposite rhetorics around this gentleman. You've got the Muslim Obama over here, like we're going to look at him and see what really is Muslim about him here in a minute. And then you've got the right wingers also saying he's Muslim, and they're calling him a jihadist. I mean, this clown that we're going to expose tonight, anything of a jihadist or an Islamic fundamentalist, is absolutely laughable. So as always, when you get between that rhetoric and you dive right there in the middle, you find out the truth. And it's the old saying, there was a rock song in the 1970s that had a line in it that said, meet the old boss, right, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And you're going to see it's just that. It's a new boss, but it's the same as the old. Now, again, he was just getting massive attention. And as I started hearing about him, as usual, the first thing I thought, and I said this to myself, I said, I bet he's another one of these guys because we've covered several of these guys, you know, on here, the Butch Wares and the Zohran Mamdanis and the Ilhan Omars and the Sister Rashida Tlaib and all the goodies that we already have up there who represent us so well. I said to myself, I'm sure he's one of these guys. And just for once, can I be wrong on that? I'm not saying I'm a prophet. Hell no. I mean, of course not. I'm not saying anything of the sort. You know, it's just such pattern recognition. It's like the sun is going to be up tomorrow. I mean, we're pretty certain until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says no, that's going to be the reality. It's like every time there's a Muslim candidate, you can pretty much be assured he's a Democrat and he's a socialist communist. He's going to be a leftist every single time. I just wish once I could come on here and say, guys, yeah, I was wrong on that. But it's just so predictable. It's not, you know, anything of a genius on my part. It's just common sense at this point. It's insulting how much this keeps going on. And I just wanted to gain, before I looked in the numbers, prepare for this week, just a little bit of respect for the immigrant Muslim community in this country. I just wanted a little bit. Please tell me they didn't fall for it again. Please tell me they didn't do it again. And we're going to see, yes, they did do it again. Just like when Zohran Mamdani won 95% of the vote, I had walked away from public Islam for about a year because I was so disgusted with the Muslim community. I couldn't go in and shake hands with people, knowing that behind my back, they probably voted for someone like Zohran Mamdani. It just really, it set something in me. It caused a bit of resentment that I did not want to have because Zohran Mamdani is what he is. We did a whole show, you know, covering him. So it's like, imagine watching a community that preaches brotherhood, unity of all man, telling you that because you're a certain ethnic group, that we want to see you discriminated against financially, for job opportunities, for everything pretty much, which is what Zohran Mamdani was doing. And he ran on this. And he got 95% of that Muslim immigrant vote in New York City. 95%. So it's okay to discriminate against people that look like me. Now, never in Islamic history would we tolerate openly such nonsense. But yet again, there we are. And Mamdani, of course, knew that he cannot, will not, put in these policies. They're illegal. Unlike the countries a lot of these immigrants came from, the United States actually has pretty good protections against racial discrimination. Unlike, again, the countries that these people came from, we're going to look at that in a second. So he ran these racial policies because he knew they would support them. He knew that if they heard, discriminate against white Caucasian Americans, they all would have no problem with it. In fact, they would love it. And they did. 95% of them did. Now, El Sayed is not on the same level as Mamdani. Mamdani is the farthest of these individuals that I've come across in the political circles. I mean, Ilhan Omar, you could argue, is right up there with him. But he's pretty close. If Muslims who spent their whole lives in the West have ever lived in the countries that these immigrants come from, they would not be surprised by these attitudes. Every single one of these groups come from a place that practices open, it's in the law, racial discrimination against non-natives. I've lived, in these places. I've traveled to them. I've worked in them. I have seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced it. It's opposite of what they're saying when they're here. When they come here, they cry racism and injustice the second they arrive, pretty much. The people that were supporting Zohran Mamdani. But you go back again to their lands, you see they are open, hostile to foreigners. Foreigners are restricted from doing basic things in some of these countries. And that's not sugarcoating. I mean, that's just not being around the bush or whatever. It's there. Anyone can go and experience it. But again, when they come here, the rhetoric changes. They have no problem, again, duplicating what they've seen and experienced their whole entire lives in those countries. But they're doing it to the people who originate and live in this country, who are born here, who have a tie here. It's the only nationality we have, the only place that we will ever live. And you've got groups of people coming in wanting to take from you. Literally, they supported Mamdani, who was promising that. So it's easy to assume that they were completely fine with it. Once they get the chance, again, to vote for a charlatan like this, who proposes racist tribal policies, they don't hesitate. They rush to do it. But now we're going to go back. I just wanted to put that in as a preface, because you have to understand when you see these huge numbers, 95%, we don't ever see a demographic in this country in the past vote for one particular candidate like this. We've never seen white Americans do it. We've never seen African Americans do it. We've never seen Native Americans or Asian Americans doing it, Latino, Hispanic Americans doing it. But we see it with the Muslim Arab demographic in particular. This hive mind, this tribalism that they have, where they will just simply vote for this guy regardless of who he is, what he stands for, just simply because of his ethnic group. Very disturbing for the long-term health of the Ummah in this country, needless to say. So who is this hero now? We'll start to make how all that makes a little bit more sense here. Well, he was born October 31st, 1984, to Egyptian immigrants in the Detroit suburbs. By all accounts, his father was very successful, hardworking immigrant who came to the country, got a good job, got a student visa, studied here, worked his way up, well-off household. That this gentleman, everything's normal at this point, but we're going to see as we look at his background further where it goes to the usual places again. So this guy would then move on to go to the University of Michigan. He was a football player, lacrosse player, played multiple sports, seemed to have a pretty normal life up to this point, very privileged, if you will, more than most, Americans. He would major in biology and political science. Political science is usually, it's a way to law degrees. You take political science majors, you transition to law. It's one of the kind of career tracks, if you will, to go into politics. So he went to the biology with that political science in there, clearly probably eyeing it from this point in time, some kind of a political future, if you will. Again, everything is normal up until this point until he delivered the commencement speech at his graduation, the same one that would be spoken on by the great sarcasm there, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton would hear a young man here speak, and he was impressed. And supposedly, Bill Clinton approached him and said that, this guy was highly, charismatic, and that he encouraged him to go into public life, to make a career, out of this. Now, this is where things get interesting. So he would earn a full tuition Rhodes Scholarship to a college known as Oriel in Oxford. Again, not the average person is going to be able to pull this off, and especially to get this full ride. Now, by all accounts, it seemed like he was a good student. So he wasn't someone like you see a lot of times with the elite, like George W. Bush. They had bad grades. They couldn't even structure a sentence properly. But because of their family, they just were pushed all the way up to the elite institutions. But when you come from the outside, typically what the wealthy do is they target smart people, people with a good head, who are going to be useful to their future agenda. And it seems like Bill Clinton eyeballed this gentleman and determined that Mr. El Sayed was someone they need to keep their eye on. They need to kind of prop up and groom. So it gets even more disturbing. So he had a documented educational connection to the Soros family network, having been awarded a Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship for New Americans in 2012, allowing him to fund his studies, at Columbia, and his doctorate in epidemiology at Oxford University. So if you are familiar with the name Soros, I might have mentioned it a few times here, but never really talked much about who George Soros is, much less his children and family. This is a Jewish billionaire whose main purpose in life is flooding the West with immigrants. This is what he wants on his tombstone. This is his eulogy when he dies, if you will. This was his purpose in life. Why is a Jewish billionaire, again, so concerned with putting immigrants in the West? Wouldn't a billionaire have better things to spend his money on? We're told all the time all these people do is care about money. That's how they got to be billionaires, because they just worked so hard to get that money. But yet this guy has no problem shelling out billions of dollars over the last few decades in groups facilitating travel, these non-government organizations that bring a lot of these people into Europe, into the West, these charity groups. Usually you go and you dive deep, you find this guy connected to it. When you saw the Black Lives Matter movement, which hijacked the racial identity and traditional suffering of African Americans and turned it into a communist, socialist outfit, that group was dead on arrival once people learned, particularly African Americans, by the way, realized what it was, a socialist communist front hiding behind racial justice. They're there again. When you go and you look at these leftist riots that go on, where they've already got the bricks. This happened a lot during the George Floyd riots during the COVID time, where the elites told us we couldn't leave the house, we couldn't go to the beach, because COVID was so deadly, you're going to die if you get some fresh sunlight and salt air. They had no issue, again, with the riots. They had no issue with the protests. You couldn't get COVID, apparently, from those activities, but you could get it from going to the beach with your children. And we found video after video showing pallets of bricks being placed on the grounds in front of these stores, encouraging people to riot and giving them the tools to do it. A lot of these guys, when they were arrested, some of these leftist pigs, they identified, they were getting paid to do this. Lots of studies were done on this, lots of investigations, found again the Soros name popping up on there. So this is, again, an interesting guy who's never been involved with anything positive. It's all been about the destruction of the West and the ultimate goal, which we are going to see how they are using people like Mr. Said to get to that point. The socialist, communist, total control over every aspect of our lives and why they love immigrants so much. That's all going to become more clear as we move on. It already should be when you got 95%. They understand who they're dealing with here, how they can use that tribalism and that hive mind to further this agenda. So again, this is a great connection to have as a jihadist, as the right wing called it, isn't it? This is a great connection to have for a supposedly, practicing Muslim. Just spend your spare time with a Jewish communist billionaire whose entire agenda is economically destroying the West and rebuilding it into a communist, socialist, totalitarian, total control state with a lot of the dark past we've talked about, controlling your money. We're going to look at that with this guy in a minute with basic income. We've talked about that here before. One of the end goals is universal basic income, controlling how much power you use, controlling how you spend your money and what you spend your money on. Carbon credits, where you will basically, you're already starting to see and prepare you for this now. You look at certain states, they have on the meat how much carbon units it took to produce that ground beef for you. Mark my words, it's already been discussed. In the future, they will give you universal basic income because they used AI to take all your jobs. Then they're going to have on there how much carbon credits you are allowed to spend per month with that universal basic income. So if you try to use your card on more ground beef, but you've had too much ground beef this month, nope. Sorry, buddy. You damaged the planet too much this month. You got to go there and eat the goy slop, as we call it, the processed junk, which has a lower carbon credit, which is hilarious when you break down what goes into producing that junk food they sell to us. It's much more environmentally taxing than natural beef. But of course, that's not the agenda. They don't want smart, healthy, intelligent people. They want sick, dying, and people on prescription drugs and on vaccines and all these other things. Again, that's a different story for a different time, but you're going to see that as we uncover this gentleman and what he stands for. All the Soros agenda is involved in him because he's a Soros guy. So let's look at the policies off his website. It's right there. I'm not making this up. Some of them I will quote word for word. There's no taking him out of context, no misrepresentation here. We cover the total picture. So let's look at the immigration policies and remember George Soros off his website. We must replace our broken and unpredictable immigration policy with a clear, comprehensive, and fair system. They love that word when they talk about immigration. It's got to be comprehensive. I would like any of them to explain to me how they mean that word there. None of them could do it. They just keep parroting the same exact language. Comprehensive just simply means you let everybody come in. And this is how they've used it for 2 decades now. We need a comprehensive policy, one that you can understand. Our immigration policy now was pretty clear, just not being enforced. But these guys don't want enforcement. It goes on to say that begins with abolishing ICE. Interesting. Of course. ICE has become a tool for autocracy. Let me explain that. I never even heard that word, to be honest. I have to plead ignorant on this one. They love using stuff like this. It's a culture of aggression, impunity, and disregard for the rule of law. And it cannot be reformed or retained. Can he explain to me, this intelligent gentleman with all of his PhDs, how the ICE of enforcing, getting rid of illegals, enforcing border law, is basically aggression, and they're having impunity. We have too many illegals here. They're not even being deported. Where's the impunity here? It's a disregard for the rule of law by enforcing law. Interesting choice of words there. Must be abolished again. He believes in a safe, secure border. Of course he does. And immigration enforcement, but under a new organizational structure that puts basic human dignity and deference to the rule of law first. So, AKA, if a criminal wants to come in, you got to respect his human rights. I love the big language of the left here. So, a guy that comes in here to commit crime, MS-13 gang member, we have to respect his rights. He's got rights to come into our country illegally. We have to respect him. We have to hold his hand. We have to guide him to the welfare line and help him get set up. I mean, that's his basic human rights, according to these people. And he believes that ICE funds should be repurposed to build a legal infrastructure of courts to create a clear pathway to citizenship for those who are stuck in limbo in the current system, aka illegal aliens who broke the laws and came in here. Again, this matches the Soros agenda perfectly. This is everything that George Soros has been fighting for decades. Lawlessness, and anybody can come. We don't even have to screen him. Who cares? If the guy can actually get a job and actually contribute here, just let him in because he wants to come in. It's his God-given right to live off our taxpayer dollars and cause all the crime and all the things that a lot of these individuals do. Now, we're not talking about all. You know, people always say, oh, you're bad-mouthing immigrants. No, there's a certain section of these guys. We talked about them last week. They were flooding into the territory there in Morocco. I mean, young men, military-age men, no job skills, prone to crime and violence. This is who we're talking about. These are not families. These are not good people, a lot of them, that are coming in. No good person would come here illegally anyway. Good people would be wanted here. They would have a way in here. They would love being here. They would actually support all Americans and love to embrace the American freedoms that they do have to grow their businesses and to have upward mobility and live in a society that doesn't have, you know, discrimination laws like the countries I talked about that a lot of these people come from. These people came here with good intent, not these illegals. So again, straight to the Soros playbook. Another one. He's a firm believer in climate change, which has been debunked time and time again. Al Gore, Bill Clinton's running mate, used to do his thing called An Inconvenient Truth. He ran this documentary and speakers tour series back in 2001 to 2002. And I remember watching it, and I was in my early 20s at the time. And I was believing in global warming then until Al Gore came out. I'm like, well, this corrupt demon is promoting this. There's got to be something sinister behind it. And I went and I learned, and sure enough, all the stuff he said in that documentary and that lecture series was complete rubbish. I mean, Al Gore claimed that Miami would be underwater now. He claimed that the whole coastal line of the United States was going to be underwater because the icebergs were melting and because the planet was getting so hot, we just weren't going to be able to live. While at the same time, Al Gore and his buddies were doing what? They were buying beachfront property. Interesting, huh? As always. He clearly did not believe this. And what was the solution to this? Well, your standard of living coming down and your taxes going up. Why wouldn't it be, right? I'm just going to take more money from me. It's going to save the planet. The planet's going to respond to more tax dollars being taken from me. Oh, yeah, they're taxing them. I'll cool down now. I mean, they never gave even a clear path that didn't involve wrecking your life and taking more money out of your pocket, having you eat worse foods because they claimed that cow flatulence or aka cow farts were causing this. So you can't eat red meat. Red meat's one of the most beneficial things to the brain, to human health. You can look at people who subscribe to the carnivore diet, how healthy they've become living off red meat predominantly, and chicken, of course, too, but red meat being one of the staples of that diet. They don't want that. In the feudal systems in old medieval Europe, the king didn't allow the peasants. You couldn't hunt in the king's land. If you hunted in the king's land and ate the king's red meat, you got executed. While the peasants were eating useless, leafy green vegetables. They've always done this. Just when America came up and the standard of living for all people was being raised, they had to find a way to get it back to the good old days, the days that they longed for, if you will, where we were eating slop off the ground while they were eating the best that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to offer. And they're now trying to make it chic to go back to eating useless foods again by saying it's saving the planet. So when you hear someone talking about climate change, already mark it down. He's wanting to tax you more. He's wanting to make your electricity more expensive. He's wanting to dictate basically what you're allowed to eat and not eat. And this guy, of course, again, following the Soros playbook. He's a promoter of building new housing. This is supposed to address the housing crisis in this country. There's no housing crisis in this country. We have two crises in this country. Unlimited immigration, H-1B visas. These are the legal ones that are, and there's no fault of them. You can't blame them. They are here to work. But they're taking jobs that Americans deserve, where they have the college degrees and they're just not getting them. This is particularly India is about, I think it's 90+% of these. And when people find out these H-1Bs, it's fraud, fake degrees, fake certificates, Americans are being passed over. Good luck if you're African American, Asian American in some areas, and white American trying to get a job in these firms these days. They're not going to hire you. It's a very nepotistic culture. They're only going to hire their own. When you put them in there, it's basically casting Americans out of that job market with no chance. We built the best tech in the world. Now our young people can't find a job in it because of these H-1B visas. And that plus the illegals are the reason the housing is so high, along with the private equity firms being allowed to purchase family homes. This man addressed none of that. In fact, he's supporting this because he's planning on, like his ilk, to bring even more people into this country to further ruin our quality of life, break up the social cohesion, which is Soros' plan. Because when you have people who are not unified, who vote on tribal lines, you are easier to slip in these communist, socialist policies because the people are so fractured. There's no unity. It's divide and conquer. So again, with this guy, he supports what? Basic income as a solution. There's that language again, right from the Soros playbook, universal basic income, as a way to respond to AI taking the jobs. I mean, there's plenty of ways to do this. If you want to do business in the United States, you're not going to basically take people's jobs with AI. You can use AI as an enhancement tool. I use it. But to replace people with robotics should be illegal. There should be a human rights bill on this. People are entitled to earn money and live productive lives in their country. But this guy, that's not his solution. His solution is to pay you to sit at home and do nothing. And again, that is that agenda. We've talked about that here before. And we had a whole detailed lecture on it about maybe 6 months ago, where we talked about universal basic income, and it's about taking away your purchasing power. I talked about it earlier today with the carbon credits being tied. They can control what you eat, how much you eat, and how much you have to spend. And if you question anything they do, they'll just simply shut you off, like they do in China with their social credit system. So if you're a naughty boy and you're on that naughty list we talked about last week, bad things are going to happen to you. You are going to get cut off. You're going to be let go. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have no money now. You can't eat. So you better get back in line, buddy. You better start praising, Zohran Mamdani and these guys to get your credits back activated. It's total control. And he's pushing all of it. It's, again, the whole entire agenda. His health plan. He's fighting big health, as he said, big health care. He's fighting that institution. Lovely, isn't it? By what? Getting your drugs to you easier, making you a lifelong client in the healthcare business. That's his plan. Not once did he mention in his policy about raising awareness on dietary habits and exercise and the benefits of diet and exercise on human health. Not once did he talk about using herbs and other things to cure conditions, how to cure diabetes by dietary changes. No, none of this. Absolutely not. Take the vaccines, take the pills, go to the pharmacy, go to your pharmacist. For those of you familiar with me before, I've talked about what the word pharmakia in the Greek, black magic, witchcraft, taking that same word and using it for the pharmaceutical industries. No accident there. And this man, instead of actually giving real solutions to health, why there's a health crisis, not just in this country, it's in the Gulf states, it's all over the Muslim world, it's all over Europe. It's now creeping its way into the Far East, as well, the processed foods, the chemical additives, the sedentary, lazy lifestyle. These are the reasons. The sodas, poison that we're drinking and eating is the reason we're sick. And the solution is to go pop this pill, buddy. And then get dependent on that pill. That pill's going to damage your liver. Then you're going to go to him again and give you another pill to fix that, hopefully, and tear up another organ. And you're a lifelong pharmaceutical customer. You're basically human 2.0. Take their vaccines with mRNA technology in them and all of those things. So again, you can see it here. Every single policy we're quoting from this man goes right into their agenda. Obamacare, remember when they talked about when Obama was in there? They praised him You call it the Affordable Care Act. When these people tell you something in a bill like a Healthy Forest Initiative, I remember that one under Bush. The Healthy Forest Initiative was a green light to destroy the forests for the lumber industry to make a huge profit. Affordable health care is the opposite of that. Since Obamacare came, this demonic law, health care has rose 100%, the premiums for this. Health care is out of control, in this country. They loved it. They praised it. The deductibles have just gone to record levels now. People at my work, I don't have health insurance. I refuse to sign up for health insurance. Why? You go to a doctor and you tell them you don't have health insurance. Guess what happens? They lower the bill. Interesting, huh? It's a scam. They're taking your money every month, and then still, to use it for it to kick in, you've got to meet a high deductible. I'm sorry, I'm not paying it. Just not. And I look at how much money these people pay at work for this out of their checks every month. And then I look at when they tell me they go to the doctor, how much they still have to pay. This is a robbery. It's a scam. And it's gotten even worse. And again, take care of your body. Be healthy. Exercise. Live a natural life. You're not going to need this. Now, granted, if you have a broken bone, ligament damage, these type of things, yeah, obviously you need to see a specialist. But you got people going to the doctors on a monthly basis for small, trivial things, getting outrageous bills. You go visit this guy, he's going to defer you to go see this guy. Each time you just do the visit, you're going to have to pay money. You're not meeting the deductible. You're still paying out of pocket for all of this. Unless, of course, you're low income and you're able to get around this. But if you're any kind of middle person in this society, healthcare costs will cripple you paying these premiums every month. So it gets even better with his healthcare. Not only is he supporting this establishment, guiding you to it by saying he's going to make it free. It ain't free. It's going to be your tax dollars are going to go for this. He also does this. Now let's read the language here. I had to get all this in here. Everyone has the right to make personal decisions about their health care. That's going to be clear when I read the rest of this. Health care decisions should be made by a patient and their parents, if they're a minor in parentheses, and their doctor, no one else. This includes, and here he goes, reproductive and gender-affirming care. So here we go again. A Muslim who killed the babies. They make it such nice language. It's reproductive care. No, it's killing the kid. It's killing the baby. That's what it is. But these guys come out and they use such nice language. It makes you sound like it's an enhancement. Like this is something beautiful. It's reproductive care, And gender affirming care, what does that mean? Well, for those of you familiar with my work, we've covered this. This is basically if a man wants to be a woman, he should be covered. We should pay for this with our tax dollars to give him that gender affirming care. He feels he's a woman, we're going to give him the care to make him a woman. Why not? Of course. What a great Muslim guy this is. He'll fight to codify the rights. Again, he's going to let you know. If you didn't catch it from the first two parts, he's letting you know here. He's going to fight to give the rights protected by Roe versus Wade in federal law. He's going to fight to get you the right to kill your babies if you're an irresponsible woman or man who decide to have inappropriate zina and have a child from that. He's going to give you the right that you deserve to be able to terminate that life. He opposes any effort to criminalize certain medications and the use of lawfare or funding cuts to stop healthcare providers from providing full spectrum healthcare that meet all the needs of the diverse community. So he had to say it a third time to go through the gender affirming care, all the different things that people who believe they're women or women who believe they're men, they should be able to get all of this. Should all be covered under his universal free healthcare system. And this got 95% again of the Muslim votes. They have no issue killing the babies, apparently. They have no issue with all the other George Soros, New World Order, whatever you want to call it, Illuminati, Masonic, Zionists. They go by all different names. It's all the same thing. Now, I forgot to mention something earlier as we were talking about this gentleman and George Soros. Now, people will rush to say, well, AIPAC, George Soros doesn't vote or doesn't donate to the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee. No, he does not. But George Soros is heavily involved in a lobby group known as J Street. J Street is a Israeli-American pro-Israel group that is here to basically, they bring about peaceful. So you got one group, APAC, is all about making them stronger, military funding and things like that. You've got J Street over here, who's on the surface is acting like they're for a two-state solution. They are to the dignities and rights of the Palestinian people. But yet they give the money and none of that happens. So what does that tell you? That this is a fraudulent, phony, leftist group that's doing the exact same thing that AIPAC is, but they're hiding because we love Palestine. We're pro-Palestine. But yeah, we're still going to give money to the government that is clearly not pro-Palestine, that is clearly does not care about the human rights that these people love so much. They love human rights when it comes to crossing our border and breaking in here illegally as an MS-13 gang member or another thug from somewhere else. They love that human rights. But in the end of the day, they don't love the human rights of what's happening to the Palestinian people. So again, let's look at who voted for this guy to further piece together this, as what we talked about earlier with tribalism and the hive mind. So the Arab majority area of Dearborn, Michigan, he would get 80% of the vote. Now, if you look at the demographics of Dearborn, it is about 60+% Arab, about 30% white, and then the rest is about African American or Black American. So you have a huge Arab population here, and you got 80% of that vote. Now, when you look at the way these demographics voted in other areas, it's safe to say, again, those Mamdani numbers were probably duplicated here to give him such a high percentage that is probably 90 to 95% of the Arab Americans in Dearborn, Michigan voted for this guy. Again, pure tribalism here, hive mentality. All you've got to do is say, look, he's Egyptian. And then they'll, oh, yeah. Like when Mamdani ran, you used to hear it in the Arab circle. Well, he's got a Syrian wife. Well, he's done this. Oh, but he's got a Syrian wife. That's all that matters, isn't it? And it's very sad to see all this unfolding. He won one other group, only one. This guy got elected in the primary by winning two groups. He won those guys, the 95% of them across the state of Michigan, and he won people from wealthy districts and predominantly white liberal with college degrees. These people are some of the biggest scourge on the United States. These are wealthy kids that went to the colleges and universities where daddy and mommy paid for everything. They've never experienced any hardship in life. They've never done anything in the real world. They hate their own groups. They hate their own people. They've been so brainwashed by the far left that they see anything that's not white American as good. And these people will typically fall for anything. They were huge for Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani would give a speech talking about taxing them more than other groups based on the color of their skin. They sit there and go, yeah, he hates us. That's good. That's woke. That's progressivism. So he won these groups. So isn't it interesting? The wealthy and the Arab groups was his base. He struggled tremendously among African Americans, as we're going to look at here in a minute. And again, this is something that goes on, across the world. I mean, across the board, in this country. It's always when you have a progressive socialist, his built-in base is always the wealthiest counties, predominantly white, Caucasian American counties, are some of their biggest supporters. Why would they be doing that? Why would all these people that have all this wealth supposedly want to live in a world where everybody was equal? Anyone who knows people with wealth, that's not typically how they think. They know this guy will protect their wealth. Because if you look at these countries that have implemented communism before or these type of socialist systems, usually what you see is all the wealthies up here and then all the rest of us are equal on the bottom. We're equal, all right, equally poor, but we're on the bottom. You saw this in Cuba. Castro and his people had all the wealth, and the rest of the Cuban people were living on the ground in dirt homes, in poverty, in horrible conditions. But yet, again, that's supposed to be everyone's equal. Yeah, everybody is equal, but them. So wealthy people openly supporting a supposed socialist is quite fishy, and it should raise the alarm of anyone who's looking into this. Now, black voters and working class white voters rejected this clown, as they should. Same thing you saw with Mondani. The white working class in New York saw him a mile away. The black working class in New York saw him from a mile away. They rejected him, outright. Black voters aren't responding to this type of message, and neither are the white middle class, because they understand how these policies are. They've heard these charlatans before. They know what it leads to. They don't want a part of it. He didn't win one single working class district in the entire state. These are the people he's given those Obama-like speeches I talked about earlier. He's for the working man. He's for you. They certainly didn't see that way. They certainly didn't vote for him that way. They read the policies on his website. They said, how is this for me? You're wanting to take my job. You're wanting to flood me with unlimited immigrants and have them drive down the wages, raise the cost of the housing. You're wanting to give me universal basic income instead of addressing the AI problems. You're wanting climate change rules that are going to raise my taxes, raise my energy bill, raise my fuel costs to go to my job that I'm working every day. They see the snake that this guy is. But this is the new America. And we're now going to start seeing this popping up state by state. Michigan, by the way, also does not have voter ID law. It's always funny how that works, isn't it? Any of these states where you see there's no voter ID law, you see people like this winning. It's no accident. Anyone can go in and vote. If you don't have to show an ID, who is this guy? My name is, Mark. Okay, Mark, go in there and vote. Go to the next poll. Yeah, my name is Chris or Chuck. Go in there and vote. In the case of Dearborn, your name could be Muhammad multiple times and vote. It's a joke. And excuse me, 80% of Americans oppose this, but yet the bastards, sorry for my language, that's what they are, in Congress refuse to pass this. They refuse to put an ID in there. Now, as Muslims, we shouldn't be voting in this anyway, but this is the system that is ruling the land that we are residing in. So Soros and his Zionist buddies, again, they know what's going on here. This is why they use these immigrants, why they want these immigrants in here, to slowly use them as a tribal vehicle to get this system in place. They know they vote as a bloc. They know the cultures they came from. They know the tribalism. They know the nationalism. They know how they have no issue at all accepting these discriminatory policies against people based on their ethnic group or race, because they know the layout of their lands. They have no problem, again, bringing endless amounts of these people in here to vote exactly like we saw them vote. They did everything they were predicted to do. And sure enough, they've got another one of these socialist guys one step away from being there and a decision maker in Washington. And again, they tried this technique with the African American community in this country first. You can look and go back 100 years, and you can see the Communist Party in the early 1900s. You can see the Socialist Party all trying to go heavily into the African American community and recruit them to this. This was met with terrible results. The African American community rejected this and has never accepted communism in this nation. They then tried to move on with the first immigrant group, which was the Hispanic Americans. They went after them with these policies. Hispanic Americans are hardworking people. They work, especially the ones who came here legally. They love this country. They work hard here. They raise their families. They buy land. They try to live off the land. So many of them are self-sufficient people. They rejected this. As generations came down, more and more Hispanic voters continued to go more to conservative policies. They want the America they came here for, not this dystopian nightmare. So they've tried this with every immigrant group that's come here. Only one so far is it working on, and that's this new wave of immigrants that they've been bringing in since basically around 2001 to present day. We've seen massive demographic changes, and groups that were not here before are now here now, and they're voting again to the desired results. So one last thing that has to be mentioned with this guy is you are the company that you keep, as the old saying goes. So who's he palling around with? Well, he's palling around with a gentleman going by the name of Hassan Piker. Now, Hassan Piker, for those of you who's not familiar with him, is one of the biggest scum of the earth I think I've ever laid my eyes on in the social media realm. He is a Turkish immigrant, socialist, communist. He calls himself a non-practicing Muslim. It's a non-practicing Muslim. What is a non-practicing Muslim? Does that even, can you be, by the definition of the word Muslim, can you be a non-practicing Muslim? AKA, it means I'm trying to use my Turkish identity for clout among these immigrant communities, but I'll still say I'm Muslim. I don't follow any of that stuff, but I'm non-practicing. You can say I'm Muslim. So he can win both ways. He can get the socialists to love him of the immigrant communities, and he can hopefully win over some of the gullible Muslims who don't research any of these people and just, oh, yeah, he's Muslim, but he's non-practicing, but inshallah, he'll come back one day. It's like a non-practicing Muslim is like an electrician who doesn't know anything about electricity. I mean, it can't exist. I mean, you can't be a non-practicing Muslim. You will cease to have that beautiful honor of being someone who submits to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will if you're not practicing it. So he's been out traveling around with this guy. Let's see some of the comments that this beautiful gentleman has had to say. He attacked Asian immigrant groups a few years ago for not supporting communism. Asian immigrants are another demographic that has really done well here. They've flourished in the business realm. They've flourished in the tech fields. You never hear of Asian people cursing this country or the American people when they came here. They typically blend in very well. They work hard. They have good families, solid educational structure. And these groups, they hate them because of that, because they're not voting and acting the way that they want them to act. They want them to come here and curse white Americans, to curse all the other native-born Americans that have been here. They want that. And Asians have not been giving it to them. So what does he say? He called them the white man's dog because one of them had done a video about supporting conservative, more traditional American politics and American culture. This guy attacked him for that. Attacked him for his Asianness. Said, you're not Asian because you don't support the socialism and communism that I'm supporting. Again, it's none of his business how this person feels or thinks. He has a right to choose. Now he went on and he attacked basically the African American, community. He went after them, saying that he's tired of them pretty much. We have to stop caring about what they think. As he said, I'm paraphrasing on this, not an exact quote, something along those lines, that they're not voting the way we want them to. We don't need them. And they've kind of carried this approach here in the state of Michigan. As we mentioned earlier, the African American community didn't care too much for Mr. El Sayed. So they're going to be angry at them even more. And of course, he didn't pass up an opportunity to demonize white Americans as well, he said a racial slur to attack white Americans. Then he said when he was called out for it, well, that doesn't have historical significance, So it doesn't matter. He's not being racist. He's using a racial slur, but it's a new one, It's like if I was to sit here and say, okay, from this day forward, I'm going to create a racial slur for this certain group. And I can say it when I talk about them because it doesn't have any historical significance. It's new. So he felt it was perfectly okay to go out there and attack white Americans. And if you don't like us, please go home. I don't think any of the American people will miss you. I don't think we need you and your racism and your communist rhetoric in this nation anymore. And this, again, is who Mr. El Sayed chooses to partner around with. He's demeaned Black Americans. He's demeaned white Americans. He's demeaned Asian Americans. I'm not sure if he's demeaned Hispanic Americans. I'm sure probably if they didn't vote the way that he wanted them to, he would have done the same. And this guy, again, has been propped up. Most of his audience is bots. I've never met any person in my life who's ever said, oh, I love that guy. I've never met him, but yet his audience is huge. Again, a lot of these people are propped up by the bot establishment, by fake accounts where they pay these guys in India and other countries to subscribe and to follow, to platform certain people who are coming out and saying this rhetoric. And you have Muslims come out and defend this guy who's Muslim. You gotta look out for your brother. You're not my brother when you're spewing racial insults like this. At all, everything we do here, we do for love. When I'm criticizing certain demographic groups, like I have tonight, it's for betterment. It's for improvement. It's for hopefully some of those people to look in the mirror and get out of this tribalism. It's killing Islam. It's breaking up the Ummah. And it's becoming in the West even worse, it seems, by the year, by the day, by the hour. You're never going to have any unity in the Ummah when you've got people voting for people like Zohran Mamdani who are alienating huge racial groups. I mean, there's tens of millions of white Muslims around the world who, if any of them have any guts, a lot of them unfortunately do not, they would condemn this openly like I've done tonight because you're offending me. If you're going after the African American Muslims, you're offending all of us as well. When you vote for people like this because of tribalism and racial lines, you need to take a look in the mirror because you're, in the end of the day, the joke's going to be on you. Because when these policies come back and they're the ones taking away your rights, taking away your freedoms and all these things, you were an enabler of it. You actively went out there and supported people like this. You facilitated their rise with your efforts. You're posting things about them online, going down to the polling place to vote for them. You're enabling this. And part of me, as long as it doesn't affect me and the people I care about, I would love to see it come back on them. But the problem is this will become a national problem. It'll be a problem for all of us. Even the ones that warned about it and didn't enable it are going to be affected by it. If they had their own little area up there where they could actually eat, breathe, and feel these policies, it would be quite funny for them to see exactly that the joke is on them, how much they've been misled and tricked. So again, we do everything we do here out of love, to motivate people, to get them to educate themselves, learn who these individuals are before you start going on Twitter and saying you're not a Muslim if you don't support this guy, you're not a Muslim if you don't support Mamdani, that you're a traitor, that these guys are here to usher in the golden era of Islam. I heard that. I mean, I'm not lying here. That they're going to bring in a golden era of Islam, here in the West with those policies. It's going to be the golden era of Islam. I mean, I think we all know the answer to what those policies are going to lead to. So close up there. As always, comments, questions on the presentation. I know it's a bit more fiery than I usually do because this is an issue that really fires me up when I see this. And you can see where it's going. It's not going to end well for the people on both sides are going to be affected by this tremendous division. And particularly the Ummah. So questions, comments?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Good information, brother. Thank you so much. Because I kind of watched a little bit of that today on the news myself about this Saeed person. The nerve of him, the nerve of this guy, And he even said he didn't even give a DAN if somebody hates his name. And that's when I kind of turned away from him because it's like he's got some controversy going in. And there's a couple of comments from my shadow, but I'm not sure if I want to read what he's saying. I'm going to read it, and then you can just take it the way you see it. He's saying, Mandami, I suspect, is controlled opposition. I could be wrong, but until now, he did nothing of the discriminatory sort you present or claim. You seem to be a controlled propaganda mouthpiece as well. I don't know if you want to address that.
Oh, absolutely. I love these people. And again, if you do your job right, you're going to be disliked. How am I controlled opposition when I'm leading people to the Sunnah? This guy, as I highlighted, is leading people to basically socialist, anti-Islamic policies. Am I controlled opposition telling Muslims not to vote for someone? It's on his webpage for that gentleman to go educate himself because apparently he's not. It's on his webpage that he's supporting abortion. Is abortion an Islamic practice? Where's the controlled opposition? Am I ordering people to go against the Sunnah? Or am I ordering people to follow the Sunnah? There's a man out here who's ordering people basically to abandon, to murder your babies, to support LGBTQ. Every single thing I said about this man is on his website. I read the quotes right directly. I copied and pasted them in front of me for his website. But this is the type, again, of the, and again, I welcome it. I love it. I embrace it. The uneducated, out there who are going to say these things.
Alhamdulillah. He also stated, I'm not sure if this man's a Muslim or not, he says, the only qualm I have with Mandani out of all the things he said is him denouncing resistance against apartheid and his grocery thing.
Mm.
Whatever
Well,
that means.
Mamdani, again, if he doesn't believe me, the New York Times even had on the headline, "The price is white." Mamdani he's on video saying that he wants to openly discriminate against white Americans and redistribute wealth. The grocery store thing, we talked about that here a few weeks ago, is obviously a scam and a disaster. Everything about this guy, he can't implement these policies. He's just going to run on it because he knows a lot of these groups have a tribalism and a resentment that I talked about to certain demographics in this country. And in order for us to be unified as Muslims, we have to call this out. And all these imams that supported people like this, if I went to any of their countries, I would always be a second-class citizen. And that's a fact. But yet when they come in here, they want to make me a second-class citizen of my own as well. Where am I going to go where I'm not a second-class citizen? Or anyone who's African-American, go to any of these immigrant groups' countries and see the way that you're treated there. You're not going to have property rights and rights of free speech and all of these things. But yet when they come here, they're still pushing for these same policies, or they would not have voted for Mamdani. If somebody came out and said, I'll give an example. When I was living in the Middle East, and I'm not going to name the country, I was working there for 2 years because there's a lot of people good in this country, a lot of good people I met in the country, but they had a policy that if you were a foreigner, you paid more per month in electric. Now imagine, this would make the Ku Klux Klan jealous. Not even the Ku Klux Klan and Jim Crow in this country, in America, in our racial history, ever openly called to tax African Americans or charge them more for electricity. But yet a country that I lived and worked in did just that. And that's how it is in these countries. They have no issue with it. They bring that type of baggage into here. And this is not Islam, at all. It goes to the core of opposite of what Islam, represents.
I have a comment to make too. I think too, a lot of the people the reason why you guys don't have a problem with this stuff is, like I say, because a lot of you Muslims, the person is Muslim. And the problem is we're uneducated. Like the Prophet said, we're so ignorant. The Muslims in 2026 are just plain ignorant of Islam. Number one, you need to educate yourself and know that it's haram. It's against the principles of Islam for any Muslim to pledge allegiance to anything that opposes the Quran. And for any Muslim to run for office in America, they have to pledge allegiance to the Constitution of America. And the preamble of the American Constitution states that you have to put the United States Constitution over any religion, over any Bible, over any book. So you're basically denying the Quran and Allah and putting the American Constitution over. So you're basically denouncing La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah to run for public office here. And that makes you what? You do the math. So the reason why you have no problem with these Muslims running for public office is because you yourself have no knowledge of your religion, because you haven't learned what La ilaha illallah means. You need to go learn your deen. and then learn how to read. Like he says, if you go to these people's websites, you will see that they have denounced Islam, basically, because everything that this brother has reported, he copied and pasted off their websites. These people have no allegiance to Allah. They have no allegiance to the Quran. They have no allegiance to the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or to you or to me. They have done what Allah has said in the Quran that we would do. They have sold Islam for the miserable price of fame. So that's why you have no problem with nothing here, because you yourself are uneducated. And I'm using that word nicely.
Yeah, and we are open here. As I was talking about bomb throwers last week, bomb throwers are people who go out there and they say things and they can't back them up, and then they close the videos, and we don't do that here. If you have a legitimate concern with anything I've said, you want to challenge it, we'll do it live. We'll do it impromptu. But again, like Sister Layla said, I mean, I said earlier, I took everything from this guy's website. That's what I use their own words against them. This guy is not representing the Islamic creed in any way. Now, pretend the election thing, cast that aside. If this guy was just a guy speaking in the masjid, saying pro-abortion, pro-gender affirming healthcare, it's right on his website. He's for transitional surgeries for homosexual men to become women instead of counseling. He's for pharmaceutical drugs instead of health. He's for universal basic income. We've covered that here at length, what that means, where they're going with it. He's for the phony climate change agenda and all those paths. He's partnered, as I showed, with George Soros. You can go right to Google, first link, and they'll type in for the AI, is this gentleman connected to George Soros Foundation? It'll pop up, yes. It will give you the evidence right there. He's working with a man whose record I highlighted, there. And you've got 95% of so-called Muslims voting for this guy because of tribalism. There's no denying that. Because if they read his policies and they were voting for the sake, we're saying the election system is good here, that they was voting basically for their hearts and for their Islam, they'd read this stuff and say, no way would I support someone who supports killing babies, who supports basically just having all the promiscuous zina your heart can desire and then go terminate the child. Every one of these guys is a leftist because they're using the tribalism of these immigrant groups against them. And again, the last laugh is on them. They're enabling this. They're actively contributing to this.
Alhamdulillah. And my brother Ahmad, he's just given his thoughts. He says about ICE stuff. I have heard in the news they have killed people, and it's like police brutality. They mostly target people of color. It's like police brutality against the African American community. He's overseas.
Well, there is a history. Now, are police now better? Absolutely. I mean, we've seen those numbers drop significantly. But there was a time in this country's history where there was very strict targeting of African American people. There was injustices, and African American people were not allowed to be even in the major leagues in baseball and football in this country. But this country, again, gets all the bad stuff that's happened to it, but we never talk a lot about the good stuff of how far we have come. The United States abolished slavery. Now, did they give the African American slaves what they promised them? No. We covered that about a year or so ago. I went through what happened after slavery and how those newly freed slaves were really just thrown out onto the land with no resources, no education. They were behind. They didn't have generational wealth. And the African American communities come far, but not far enough. But we are on our way. We have laws now in the books that we should be praised for coming and overcoming this to where people are not able to be easily discriminated against anymore. And we're seeing that the African American community's risen in some areas better than they ever have before. Now, in others, the same way with the white community in terms of infidelity and children out of wedlock in the 1960s, 85% of African American children were born into a marriage. It was higher than whites. Whites was at 84%. They were 1% higher than that. Now you see it, it's just scary. It's a moral issue that's affecting us all. Like 70-something% of African American children are born out of wedlock. And 50+% of whites are now born out of wedlock. Those numbers are being almost flipped upside down. But in terms of racial attitudes, we have come a long way in this country, more than we ever have. And a lot of these people, I said, they come in here from other places that have open racism in their laws. And they criticize a country that has done a lot to try to make past injustices right. Like I said, we still have a long way to go, but we are on our way. We had to start to overcome some of this. But you got your racism is a business. You've got groups on both sides. You have black racists who just dislike whites, who are going to make a business off trying to fan racial flames. And then you have white guys who are racist against blacks, who are making a business off of condemning blacks and doing nothing but content on blacks and things like this. So it's a business of a race hustle that's going on here that I wish we could see eliminated, but it's better than it was. And that is the good news, that we have come a long way. And again, the country has done a lot that I don't think we get enough credit for here, for building bridges between, like in my workplace. I mean, we are an open, pretty much, we're 1/3 white, we're 1/3 black, we're 1/3 Native American, actually, in the company I work at. And we haven't had really any issues amongst each other of any racial. Everybody gets along. People eat together, friends with each other. They hang out together and things like that. Things that you would never have seen 70 years ago. So there's a lot of progress has been made. But the police question, that's definitely in the history. You can look at the LAPD, the Chicago PD. You can go and see what used to go on in the 60s and the 50s in these areas. And again, that's still, there's an element of it, but it's, the numbers show it's a lot better, dramatically better.
Alhamdulillah. Any questions from Zoom?
Well, assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum salam.
One thing I would like to say is that I was thinking the whole time I was listening to you, that is, we are definitely going to have to proceed with caution. You know, with people like him that's coming out and trying to, and coming to America as immigrants, and are even those who are not coming, just now coming to America, but are adopting this type of philosophy themselves. It's like walking on, we're gonna have to walk very carefully and not to step on a time bomb. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I went to Saudi Arabia for the first time, obviously when I got to Saudi Arabia, the Saudi people had more money than me because it was their country. Did I curse them and hate them? This guy, Hassan Piker, loves to use the word white privilege and how white Americans have more generational wealth than immigrants. Well, you're an immigrant, of course. If you go to India, people in India are going to have more wealth than a white person who went to India because it's their country. They've lived in that country. They've built generational wealth and all these things. But these immigrant groups are just radicalized, you know, so early to have this resentment that's being taught by the left. Instead of saying, okay, you've got an op, like my ancestors, they came here in the early 1900s and they worked jobs in kitchens and places in restaurant and hospitality, making no money. The next generation, my grandfather was a mailman. Then my father joined the army. And then I was the first one in the family at that time who got a college education and got a better job than all of them. We didn't have the generational wealth that a lot of Americans had been here from the beginning had, obviously. But back then, the immigrants just didn't have this resentment because they didn't have a far left fanning it and trying to. We came here as Eastern Europeans. We had funny last names. Most of them were Catholic or Orthodox. They didn't fit into the Protestant circles. And they had challenges. And they were not liked, you know, by a lot of the Irish or English or Germanic Americans at that time. And there was that divide. But over time, they became Americans. We learned the language. We adopted the practices, and Islam is a little bit different because we don't want to adopt all the practices, obviously, of the West. There's a lot of them that are against our religion. We definitely don't want to adopt. Their promiscuity, alcoholism, or embracing of alcohol. Not every Westerner, obviously, is an alcoholic, but you get my point. But that's what we're asking, from these immigrant groups, to put the tribalism and leave it at home, especially in the Islamic community. We're a very small minority. We already have a Zionist media out there to paint us like the bad guys every chance they get, to give this image. We talked about it with Sneeko, of the Muslim terrorist, the Muslim who's here to conquer, the Muslim who hates you, who wants to rape your women. We already got all that propaganda, out there against us because we are a new group. We are like the people who came, like I said, from Eastern Europe with the funny names that were ostracized back then. But Muslims can really turn that image around by following our religion. If we followed our religion, people would respect us. That's just unfortunately not happening with the vast majority of Muslims. They're not following the religion. They're not giving a shining example of the light of Islam. When you have a light of Islam on you, people respond to that. And they'll start to inquire with interest, what's making this person behave in such a good moral way? Why are they so charitable? Why are they so nice and helpful in these things? Accentuating the positives. But that's just simply, unfortunately, not happening. It's the opposite.
I agree with that. It's almost like you're being watched all the time. By society, as Muslims, just waiting for you to do something. If it's just one thing that they can say, aha, you see how they are?
Yeah, exactly. There they go. There it is. And one of the things that's been promoted by the left and the right is that Muslims are racist against white people. And there's, like I said, tens of millions of white Muslims all around the world. I mean, in different countries, Caucasian, a lot of Arabs are white Caucasian. You see it in Bosnia, places like that. And there's huge white Muslim populations, along with the reverts, like myself, of course. And when you have gentlemen like Zohran Mamdani getting 95% of the vote, saying things like that, that further, basically solidifies in their mind that Muslims are racist against whites. Muslims would love to see, white people become Muslim. This is the whole world, become Muslim. And we all live under the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a dream. It's not a threat. It's a beautiful thing to bring Islam, to the West. But it has to be done in the right way. It can't be done, in a way of trying to use political bullying and racial tribalism and intimidation. It's the way Islam is always spread, through education, through information, through behavior. The truth will always stand out clear from falsehood when presented correctly.
Alhamdulillah. And our brother Ahmad is like looking into the West because he's not from the West. He says on immigration, especially an illegal one, why don't you stop at the border? Why let them in? I feel this more about big companies that want these people to be hired as cheap labor.
He's actually definitely on the right track. It's two things. That's one of them. I know, like today, I'll give an example at my job. There was a Hispanic guy that came in, and he was using a jackhammer to break open concrete to lay down some metal plates in our floor. And my specialty is safety. I keep people safe. And I saw him, and he didn't speak very much English. We have a Hispanic guy that came in there, was translating for me. And I asked him, are you familiar with the hazards of that dust? And he said, no. And I said, how much are you doing this per week in other companies? He's a contractor. And he says every day that he's being exposed to that dust. And I said, is your company giving you a respirator or any training or anything? And he said, no. And I got him a respirator. We got him some water to put on the floor so when he was using the jackhammer, dust would not come in the air. So he wasn't going to breathe it. And it's like, not only that, so you don't have to spend the money on the training. You don't have to spend the money on the equipment. They're not going to complain. They don't know the rights. They don't know their rights under the law. They're going to be underpaid. That is one big reason why they love endless supplies of immigrants, is because they can take advantage of them. These corporations, it's like a new form of slavery for them. Like I did my slavery episode about a year and a half ago, and I was showing how the white slave owners in the South, how low of a percentage that was. And those people just converted to business. You know, they always want to have no business costs or labor costs. So they went on to doing this system now. Instead of actually having someone who's forced to do the work for free, now they want to just have someone who can get the bare minimum and do the work so they can maximize their filthy profits. So that's one component of it. The second component of it is what I talked about tonight, is that these people know the tribalism that's in a lot of these societies. Because we didn't have this problem with the Hispanic immigrants. The Hispanic immigrants mostly came from countries that were, they knew the horrors of this type of stuff, and they rejected it. They came to America because they loved the system that allowed them to have upward mobility, to flourish. We're seeing this problem now with the new immigrant groups that are coming in here, who are being tricked by the left and are embracing socialism and communism. The left is using them as a vehicle, as I mentioned, to get guys like this elected, to get Zohran Mamdani elected. It's a different mentality. And they're flooding us with these guys because of the fact of what I just mentioned. It's a way of getting a means to an end. The other one, the Hispanic immigrant, was predominantly for cheap wages, lack of worker rights and representation, taking advantage of these people, driving down the wages. With the other groups, it's about getting in socialism and communism. They know with a lot of these Arab groups, all they, like I mentioned, you hear all on Twitter all the time, it's like, he's Egyptian. Like, you have to vote for him because he's Egyptian. Says who? You know, Donald Trump is a white American. I'm a white American. Am I out here saying, oh, I love Donald Trump because he's white? Let's go vote for Trump. He's white. And that would be the most ignorant thing on earth to say. Or I'm going to vote for Bill Clinton because he's white. But that's exactly what's happening. That's why I decided to kind of turn it in this direction, because there's a lot of valuable lessons here that the Ummah needs to learn about this tribalism and how they weaponize it against you. They're going to put up any scumbag with anti-Islamic views, but oh, he's got a Syrian wife. That's all that matters. You know, he's Egyptian. That's all that matters. He says Salam Alaikum. That's all that matters.
One of the sisters overseas is asking, why is it that it seems like they got all these people from that's Arab and Pakistanis coming that are immigrants in your country running for president and positions? Why is it that that's happening there?
Well, that's again part of getting the socialism to be accepted. So the more of these the demographics of the immigrants grow, the more you're going to see of these guys. We saw Ilhan Omar was one of the first. We saw Linda Sarsour, who's not a politician but was a political figure. Linda Sarsour was very racist, even though her skin's whiter than mine. It's hilarious when you think about it. But she was all about the feminism, getting the women to rebel against their husbands. And to, again, they're all for abortion. All of them. Every single one of these Muslims is for a baby killing. Every single one of them. Because it's population reduction. You know, and you find that when Muslim women come to the West, their mothers typically had 5 children by the age of 30. You see when the second generation of those daughters grows up, you're seeing by 30 they have 1 on average. They are buying that propaganda. We talked about the feminism last week with that lady, that creature we covered last week, and what she was promoting, attacking the sisters with this agenda. Population reduction, lowering the birth rates, dividing the sexes, getting socialist policies like we highlighted tonight in place. And you're going to see more of these guys. They just keep coming up now. There's no end to them. It's like after this guy, there's going to be another one. And I guarantee, mark my words, it's going to be the same stuff because it always is. It was the same platform with Omar. And Omar was, again, she loves Palestine. She loves it. But then when Omar had to vote on those budgets that had money for Israel in it, what did Omar do? I think we know the answer to that. It's all talk. They can just throw Palestine out there again. Oh, yeah, she loves Palestine. Well, how does she vote? How does she act in there? What is she supporting? Like this guy, he didn't even try to hide it. He even said that he believes in continuing. This was a quote. It's online. You can see it. that he believes in continuing to give Israel the money, but there's got to be conditions. It can't be unconditionally. You gotta keep giving them the money though, but conditions on it. It's always a little catch, in there. Business is old. As I said, meet the new ball, same as the old ball. But as again, going back to that guy's comment of controlled opposition, I wish he could have actually said where the controlled opposition was. Again, it's like when someone is calling someone to the Quran and the Sunnah as the ultimate governance, where's the controlled opposition? Versus someone who I'm highlighting who's calling Muslims to murder of innocent unborn children, who's calling Muslims to homosexuality and gender affirming care, who's calling Muslims to basically universal basic income, where they're controlling what you eat, how you eat, where you eat. Go look up universal basic income. Go look at China's social credit score there and see what that leads to, because they're controlling your money. They're giving you money every month. They can cut it off, and they will.
We're finding out not only are all these people sharing in common killing babies, abortion, but they're hadith rejectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of that. And these are the people, they are not only do they reject the hadiths, they reject the Sunnah, they are not people of the Sunnah, they are Qadariya. They end up, like I tell you guys, American Muslims are Qadariya, Sufis, the worst kind, Qadariya.
Yeah, the hadith rejectors, we covered that last week. That's a new thing.
And that's what most of them fall in that category. And I'm telling you, ever since you talked about it, and I've been talking about it too, look at the comments on my videos, on the shorts and my videos. They're coming out the head woodworks. I'm just responded. My algorithm robot, Mr. Man, just responded to 10 of them. They all saying hadiths are BS, hadiths are BS. They all out the woodworks. Qadariya.
Yep. Well, again, I like to ask anyone who makes a statement like that, what I talked about last week. If you don't have hadith, how do you know who the Prophet ﷺ was? How do you know he's even a prophet? And I did a lecture when I first started here years ago called Defending the Prophet ﷺ. And I used the seerah of him to show that his motivations were not financial. They were not power. I mean, we see from living and studying his life how much hardship he endured. And back then, time traveled on a lot longer than it does now because you didn't have such a hyper. Now, time just goes by fast. The Prophet ﷺ was suffering for a decade, gaining nothing at all with this message. You would not know that if you didn't have the hadith. You would have no way of defending him against the Christian attacks. You'd have no idea of his character. You'd have no idea who the Sahaba are. The Sahaba didn't even exist if you don't have a hadith. There's no Western literature published about Umar al-Khattab. There's none about Ali. There's none about Uthman. There's none about Abu Bakr. None. Without our traditions, we have nothing. Now, are there hadith that are fraudulent? Absolutely. And the scholars have done a pretty good job of identifying most of those. So again, the scholarship has done its job in preparing us for the fraudulent hadith. I mean, I was mentioned when Imam Bukhari collected hundreds of thousands. He threw so many of them out, threw about 90+% of them out, filtered them out, because there was a lot of oral stuff going on. But the scholars did a very good job of bringing us what we have today. And without them, we have no religion, none. And these people, again, when you ask them why they disagree with the hadith, it's because of their desires, more times than not. They want to commit zina. They're kind of blocked. The Quran blocks them on that one too, but they can play with it a little bit more if they didn't have the hadith there to reinforce that. Alcohol, they want to party. They want to have a good time. That hadith, we got to get rid of it. Like I mentioned about homosexuality last week, I saw a blog where the guy made his case, and he was very convincing, very well read, great writer, great, English structure in his arguments. And he was out there just breaking it down that the Quran is not against homosexuality, that it was against rape, and that rape is wrong, but not being gay is wrong. And he basically said, we throw the hadith out, we see that homosexuality was never banned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's where it goes. That's where it ends up. You can have anyone, as I mentioned, like Protestant Christianity. Anyone can go to a strip mall, open up their own church, and preach whatever they want. And you can't have any kind of control or guidelines over him. He can take advantage of impressionable people who just want to get closer to God. You can do the same thing in our community if you don't have the traditions and you don't have the scholars. You can just open a masjid, and it's the gay promoting masjid. It's the masjid that says you get one zina per year. Freebie, if you will. You get one get out of jail free card, like the old Monopoly game, for one zina per year. And who's going to question him?
Exactly. And that's what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said would happen with the later generations. His sunnah will become abandoned, forgotten, replaced. And that's what they want, to get rid of the hadiths. The hadiths are the explanation of the Quran. That's the Islamic history. That's everything. So get rid of the hadiths and we can make up our own stuff and do our own thing. And that's what's going on today. That's why everybody is, the Muslims here in the West are trying to do away with it. And they're, that's on them. But they're like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there'll always be a handful of people to uphold it. And inshallah, here at Sunnah followers, we are of that handful, whether you people like it or not.
Man.
Okay, this was alhamdulillah another good session with brother Yusuf Zucovsky, his real talk. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad that you guys enjoy coming here to learn every week. And yes, this was a very eye-opening. We got another one that's trying to, who has sold the Quran for the miserable price of fame, who has thrown his hat into the political arena along with the rest of them to support the ideology of the kuffar. And that's going to be our topic for tonight's Islam Q&A too. It's amazing that he talked about this, because our topic is going to be on that level tonight with our Q&A. We'll make sure you guys are here at 9:30 for that. So alhamdulillah, we're going to close out because I know it's time for my grib for him, because it is for me too.
Yeah.
Next week, yes, he's going to continue with it. Brother Amir said he loves this. He told me, tell you I love Brother Yusuf, and I was looking for this all week.
There's more of these guys to get to. We have this one guy named Junior I want to talk about, who got really big about a year ago, spreading false information. We'll talk about him a little bit. More of the other ones. Couple of the other ones.
Please keep this going. He said there's a lot of them. He said he knows that there's a lot of, they're destroying Islam. He said the Muslim 2.0 crew, they're everywhere. They're all over social media. They're all in the news. He said, please keep this going. He said he's sharing all your videos. He said he's got his friends listening and watching.
Oh, great. Thank you.
He said between you, me, and this website, this is where we can get the true Islam and what's happening in the world. He said he loves you for the sake of Allah, and he looks forward to you every week. And may Allah bless you.
Where's that brother from?
He's here in America.
Okay, mashallah.
Yeah, he's in Michigan.
So he's ground zero of the Muslim Superman with his cape flying in to save us from ourselves.
Yeah, he said he's right there where all the fitna is. Yeah. Okay. Well,
we love the Arab community, the good ones. I'm just calling out today. Like I said, everything we do here is out of love.
Yeah, he knows that. Yeah.
Get the tribalism out of this. Bad people come in all colors and all creeds.
Yeah. Well, we know.
Not going to hear me on here saying I'm going to vote for Donald Trump because he's white. It's like, and we've got to get.
No. Oh God, no. Okay, guys, we're gonna close out for tonight. Make sure you guys are here next week for another episode of Real Talk. Yeah, keep sharing these videos and lectures, guys. I'll put these shorts out probably tomorrow morning, because I'm putting out right now yesterday's shorts. Y'all see I can see y'all tagging them now as I'm putting them out. Yeah, we get a lot of views on this stuff. Yeah, but I'll put Brother okay, Amir, I'll do it tonight. He wants your stuff out tonight. Yeah, I'll do his tonight, because I'm only I'll do it tonight, inshallah. I'm not going nowhere tonight. Okay. All right, guys. Well, make sure you guys join us next week for another episode of this. He'll be on this topic again. And make sure you come back at 9:30. Subhana kala huma wa bihamdika. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum. See you guys later, inshallah.